Welcome to Wireless LAN Weekly, a podcast focused on the wireless networking professional. We aim to educate, inform, entertain, and inspire. Get ready to listen and enjoy. Now to our host of the show, Keith Parsons.
Well, welcome to episode 21 of Wireless LAN Weekly. I'm your host, Keith Parsons, and today is going to be a short podcast. It's got a little recap of Cruise Wi-Fi. I was on a cruise to Alaska last week and have a little information from that. And then we have a segment from Elaine Rogers out of Ireland on career planning. So let's get on with our show.
Things every wireless LAN professional needs to know. Gear up, buckle down, and stand by for the real techie stuff.
Cruise Wi-Fi. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Wi-Fi that I found on a cruise ship. Yes, I did go on an Alaskan cruise up the Inside Passage starting in Seattle and went up through Ketchikan, Juneau, and Skagway, and on the way back stopped at Prince Rupert. Along the way, we had some sea days, meaning we were not landing in any port. We were just staying on the ship. I tried to walk a lot while I was on the ship because there's lots of calories you can eat in all of those fine restaurants were available. So I tried to walk a lot. And in one of my walks, I noticed that I saw Wi-Fi available. So being a good site survey person, I whipped out my tools, and the tools I had amazingly had with me on this tour. I had a air check from Fluke, the new little handheld air check. I also had my Macintosh with running Wireshark, and under VM I was running Air Magnet Survey Pro, as well as iPad and an iPhone to do different surveys. And so I thought I would go about, and on the sea days, I needed to get some walking in. I needed to also get some content for the podcast, so I thought I would do a survey of the ship. The ship we were on was the Norwegian Star, about 1,000 feet long, nearly 1,000 feet long. That's about 300 meters long, 150 feet wide, about 50 meters wide. And if you did one lap around on the deck they called the promenade deck, it was about 0.4 miles around on just one lap as you're going around. Pretty good size ship. And as I walked around on different decks, the decks that had cabins in them, they were running about 18 access points per floor. So for each deck, they had 18 access points on this one little loop. The coverage patterns were amazingly good. The coverage inside my cabin, I could see 4 access points stronger than neg 70. So they did a really good job of covering, especially since it's just a big metal box with a lot of little metal cubes inside. So well done on the design there. About 18 per floor, and it was a 13-story ship, so lots and lots of access points. Indoors, they were running Cisco 1130s, and outdoors on the outside decks, they had NEMA enclosures, and inside the NEMA enclosures were running Cisco 1240s. Yeah, the NEMA enclosures weren't locked, so I could kind of check that out. After doing a couple of floors of doing the surveys to find out what was on each floor and seeing where the signals went, I was very impressed that whoever had designed it for this ship had done an amazing job. The problem with the Wi-Fi on the cruise ship wasn't the coverage. And as I try to teach in my clients, on consulting gigs, when I train people on surveying, coverage is hardly ever the problem. Coverage is easy. You just need to add more APs, a little more power. And they had done a fantastic job of getting coverage. Normally, it's a capacity issue in facilities. On this cruise ship, it wasn't really a capacity issue either. What their problem on the cruise ship was the size of the pipe. They had 4 SSIDs, 1 open and 3 locked down for internal use. But from a cruise participant, just someone riding on the cruise, the only thing you had access to was the open one, which you got into a captive portal, which took you to their webpage where you could purchase time for internet access. Well, I went down and thought I'd spend a little time, and I interviewed and spoke with the person who was on board, and he was on board full-time, actually. This is his full-time job, to sit on board and manage the internet connection that uses a satellite link. The satellite link has about 1 meg down and barely 256K up. And that's being shared between the 1,100 crew and 3,000 guests. So 4,000 people are sharing 1 meg pipe down. Not only are you sharing this little teeny pipe between lots of people, it's very expensive. If you just want to buy, in chunks of 10 minutes, the time is 75 cents per minute. If you want to really go all out and buy 250 minutes, you can get the price all the way down to 40 cents a minute. And those minutes are at that very, very slow rate. They also block anything that could use much bandwidth at all because you're sharing there. So obviously no Skype, no video, no YouTube, those kind of things. Well, not that you'd even want to do it because it's very, very slow. So they did a great job in designing the Wi-Fi, getting the Wi-Fi coverage everywhere, great signal strength, but the pipe on the back end just not happening. I ended up using, when I got into port, using either kind of a MiFi device. I have a Sprint Overdrive, and also a USB from AT&T. And so depending on which port I was in, I would use the Sprint or the AT&T one to get net connection out. I admit I did buy some time on the, when we were at sea, because there was no other way other than that to just at least get my Twitter messages and some email really quick, but a very expensive option. So if you're thinking of going on a cruise, hey, I'm all for cruising. I thought it was a nice way to take a vacation. It just so happened to be to Alaska, and Alaska was my 50th state. So my wife for Christmas was nice enough knowing it was my last state on the list, so I could hit all 50. We were able to get that knocked off the list. So I support cruises. I think cruises are great. Just see if you can find a different way that's a little cheaper. The satellite connection is just way too slow and way too expensive.
Interesting facts, little-known tidbits, things you might not have known. Short little bits to set your mind a-reeling.
Interesting fact. This is Keith Parsons, and this week I was able to present and attend other sessions at the Shark Fest conference at Stanford University, talking about different Wireshark issues. And one of the presenters there was Joe Bardwell, and Joe talked about something that he's mentioned as an interesting fact, so I'm just going to forward what he had mentioned as well. And it's the reason behind 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz waves not traveling as far. Now, actually, they physically travel just as far as each other. It's an electromagnetic wave, and it continues to travel on. If you waited long enough, it would get all the way out to the Andromeda Galaxy. But at the same RSSI, or receive signal strength, 2.4 gig waves arrive at the same distance away from an access point louder than do 5 gigahertz waves. And it's not anything to do with the actual wave itself, degrading or attenuating more. The difference is in the aperture size of the receiving antenna. The receive antennas are built to a specific size based on the frequency you're trying to listen in on. 5 gigahertz waves are smaller than 2.4 gigahertz waves, so 5 gigahertz antennas are also smaller than 2.4 gigahertz antennas. Thus, the smaller size antenna has a smaller aperture, and it catches or receives a smaller amount of the signal that's being sent. So the distance difference between 2.4 and 5 gigahertz is not based on anything other than flat-out size. Antennas are smaller, and they collect smaller amount of information, smaller amount of energy that's coming in.
Hey, being a professional means more than just knowing the technical. Now it's time to soften up and talk about the non-techie side for a minute. Slow down, put your feet up, and listen up to these items to help you on the professional side. Enjoy.
Yeah, hi Keith. Thanks so much for having me on the show again, and a big hello to everybody from a warm and unusually sunny Ireland. Well, today I'm going to speak about career planning. Career planning isn't something that everybody thinks about, especially if you're in a career. It's not something that you would imagine that you'd have to think about for the future. Now, this can be a big mistake because it's a bit like planning for the big party tomorrow. The big party could represent your retirement. So if you don't put the preparation in, then the party could be a bit of a flop. Now, we don't want our retirement to be a bit of a flop, do we? Now, a career plan, or your career, is basically the blueprint of your working life. So imagine not having a plan or a blueprint when you're building your house. You're just making it up as you go along. Having said that, I have certainly done things in my own home, including an extension that I did do bit by bit. And we did make it up as we went along. And it turned out to be a very nice project in the end. So you could argue that, well, can't we just see how it goes as we go along? And yes, things change in our lives. Our personal situations change, and really our career should actually change to match our personal situation so that we're always doing the right thing for us throughout our lives. Therefore, a plan is quite important, really, when you think about it. A plan will also help you to move upwards towards achieving your potential so that you're constantly moving upwards towards that potential that you want to always find. When you realize that you're already at your full potential, then you know that your career plan or your plan of your career has been successful. When people talk about their careers, they say, well, I do this type of job or I do this type of work. A job is just something that you do every day. You go to your job every day. Your career is such a more long-lasting element of your life. And if it doesn't fit in with the type of life that you want to have, then the career that you're doing is not going to be the right type of career because it's just not going to match your life plan. As I was saying about a job, it's just something that you do every day. So think about the job that you go to every day, if you're working at the moment, and imagine if that job was to be threatened. So when things are put under threat, the ego kicks in and we raise the siren and head for cover. But if you don't have a career plan, you're going to have no plan of action for escape, for your escape route, or to return back when the threat is gone. And this is where the career plan really comes into play. So whether it's redundancy, or you've been promoted, or you decide to take a lesser role, your plan needs to fit around that. And you need to have a plan in place to accommodate for change and when things don't go exactly right, or when we need to hit the floor or head for cover. Now, you could argue that you have bigger things to worry about. That's fair enough. We've got mortgages to pay, we've got bills to pay, so it's very hard for somebody who's already struggling with possibly a layoff or redundancy in the family, and the family's been reduced from 2 incomes down to 1 income, or 1 income down to relying on social welfare. But when you're in a position of looking for a job or job seeking or job finding, if you have a better idea about what you want to do or what you're good at doing, you're more likely to get the job that you want, and that job is going to match your career plan, and that is going to sustain you much better in your life plan as well. So while you're busy worrying about repaying your mortgage and getting the bills paid, just think and imagine that if you didn't have any kind of plan at all for your career plan or your career path is then frozen. And that's not good either, because that doesn't provide the guidance that you need to push yourself forward and get yourself back on the career ladder or the career boat, so to speak. So that brings up the question then, why do we need a career plan? We need a career plan for ourselves because simply nobody else is going to do it for us. Okay, now we know that ourselves anyway, so that's just stating the obvious. But if you're in the wrong job or the wrong career path, you're not going to meet the objectives of the organisation. So if your value system is not matching the value system of the organisation, you're going to very soon find yourself either out of a job or in a job that you don't like, or you're always going to be in constant battle with the organisation because simply the values don't match up. Your standard of living and your level of security of employment could suffer if you don't manage your career properly. So if you move up your career too fast, or if you find yourself stagnant in your career, if there's no strategy or no plan in place, then you have no way of dealing with it. So imagine that you're the pilot of an airplane and you have your procedures book in your hand. So a red light goes off, beep, 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 beep. You look in the book and you say, oh yeah, you see that we have to do such and such a procedure so that we know what to do. So we don't have to immediately make it up as we go along. And as part of that strategy, it's important to manage the boundaries between your work life and life outside of your work. Now, it very much depends if you're self-employed or if you're a tax-paying employee. Being self-employed gives you the freedom to do work tasks when possibly other people wouldn't be doing them because they've gone home from work. So you can write up that proposal or set up that tender in the evening for an hour when the kids have gone to bed, so you can have that hour earlier on so that you can read them a bedtime story, or you can go to the park. And similarly, in the morning, you can spend time doing the school run or having breakfast with the kids that go to work later and make up that time later on. But when you're in a tax-paying job, you go to work a certain time in the morning, you come home a certain time in the evening. Whether you do flexi time or set times, you still need to manage the boundaries between working at work and then when you come home. So it's that old adage that you don't take work home. That very much depends on the family unit, how they also perceive work, whether it's something that you can take home or not. So it's something that you would discuss with your family and have agreements on the boundaries as well. So another reason to have a career plan, well, in these days there's no job for life anymore. In Ireland, certainly not even in the public service. Nothing is secure, nothing is forever. And the level of security, an element of security has changed and evolved over time as well. And that's why it's more important now than ever for people to manage their own careers and not just hand their career over to a state agency of some kind and say, here you go, this is it, now you tell me what to do for the next 40 years. So it's empowering when you take control of your career like that and make out a plan, because there is no definites anymore. And lastly, why you would have a career plan is simply because you need to maintain your skill base. Now, whether that means upskilling or learning new skills or going back into a learning situation or just catching up on new technologies, you can write that into your plan and foresee that, yeah, I only have a one level, let's say a third level degree at the moment. I know I'm going to have to do a higher level at some point, and you can manage it by slotting it in at a time that is appropriate and that it matches your family life, it matches your career, and it matches, if you're running a business maybe, it's not really a good time to take on an MBA when you're starting up a business. So maybe you want to do it the year after. So that all gets written into the plan. So as you can see, career plan can very much end up looking like a business plan of sorts. So what do you want the outcome of your career plan to be? Well, the three most important things that I would consider is the work that you do is going to match your capacity to do it. So that you're going to be doing the work that suits your qualifications, that work suits your experience and your area of expertise. And a consequence of that is, more importantly, you're more likely to be paid what you're actually worth. So you're being paid what you're worth to be paid. So if you can plan your career properly and have a good plan in place, you'll know when you'll be applying for or heading for the right types of jobs, and you'll be heading and planning for the types of jobs that are going to pay you what you're worth. And the third aspect of this is you will be so in a far better place to deal with change when change happens. And that change could be a bunch of redundancies in your company. It could be the company expanding or scaling down. And we all know that change brings up this horrible sense of fear in everybody, and everybody feels insecure. But if you have a plan in place, you're in a far better situation to deal with that change. And not only that, but you're going to be much more proactive about how you manage that change and where you're going forward in that change. And you'll also be more engaged in the effects of the change. And that can only be a win-win situation if managed properly as part of your career plan. So what is it you're looking for? Are you looking for a job? A job is something that you go to every day. A job is something that you do for money. A job has a job description. A job can be terminated. A job has a description or content that is decided by other people. A job can lead to burnout. A job is always connected to the organization's goals or the values of the organization and the bottom line. And of course, a job is always focused on results. So it's always about what somebody else is dictating. A career, on the other hand, is something that you have total control over. You are managing your career, you're planning your career to fulfill your potential. You're matching your value system. Your career plan is going to be part of your life plan. It's going to lead to fulfillment because it's matching your value system, matching your belief system. You're doing the type of work that you are destined and experienced and qualified to do. You know that you have the capacity to do it. You know that you're being paid for what you're worth. And you also know that when change comes, you'll be far better equipped to deal with it. And you will be able to review your career plan. So career can be reviewed constantly and changed to match your life plan as your life plan changes, as your circumstances change. Your career plan is for life. A job is just something that you go to every day. And your career plan is going to be part of your life goals, and it's always focused on the value system that you have. So what's a successful career then? That brings us on to a little word called success. A successful career is going to bring you rewards, because you will be rewarded in such a way that you will feel fulfilled, you will have reached your potential, and you will be doing the type of work that you love to do. That then gives you the type of lifestyle that you deserve, the type of lifestyle that you want, and the type of lifestyle that you've planned for. And it also has a lot to do with how you feel about what a successful career is. And you'll know in your heart and soul whether your career is moving in the way that you want it to move. So success then, it can be looked at from two different angles. Now, I'm sure you've heard all about the have, do and be, and the be, do and have, and the be, have and do. So we can define success as having, doing and being. Now that could be something like, well, when I have all the money that I want, I can do what I want, and then I can be whoever I want. Hello. That is giving your power away and saying that, well, as long as that I have what I need, then I can do what I want and be who I want. So the poor old being who I want comes last. Well, let's turn that around and put that up first. So, what about being, doing and having? So once I understand who I am, what I want to be, I will then know what I need to do, and then I will have what I want. Now you can do this in a series of ways. Firstly, you can identify your needs. Okay, now we've talked about these before, and fitting in with your value system and your belief system, fitting in with your level of qualifications and expertise and fulfillment. So identify what your needs are. What do you really need from your life to be happy and content? What are your aspirations? Okay, what do you dream about? What do you want to do? Then think about your skills and talents. What are my skills and the talents that I have? These innate things that I'm brilliant at. Then you can work out your goals. So based on what you need, what you want, and what your skills and talents are, you can work out your goal towards fulfillment. And ultimately, you can then match your values with organizational values. So that when you go to an organization to apply for work or apply for a contract or apply for a job with them, their values are matching your own value system. And that is going to give a win-win situation also. Now, a good way to think about or to look at what drives you in your career. And this is going to be a little exercise, okay? So just grab a beer mat or a receipt or a piece of paper or a notepad, or boot up a Word document there or a note. And I'm going to call out some words now that I'd like you to write down. These are the types of things that are going to drive you in your career. And they are money. Well, of course, that one has to come first, as always. It's probably the first one we think of. Security, autonomy, status, creativity, influence, power, and expertise. So those 8 little words, write them out, then look at them and number them 1 to 8. 1 being the thing that drives you most in your career, and 8 being the least. While you're doing this, reflect on what you need rather than what you want. Okay, so you're really, really looking at what fulfills you, as opposed to that blasé statement, yeah, I want more money. Yeah, I want power. Look into yourself and think, is that really, really, really what I need in my life? And is that what sustains me and fulfills me? Now, this is a quick and easy exercise to do. However, I would love if you would come back to this a few days later or over the course of the next week or so and just look at those numbers again. You may find that you might move a couple of them around as you think more about what your value system is and what you want out of life. So then we need to put the planning process in place. Okay, so we're talking about a career plan, so we need a plan. First of all, you need to understand why you make the choices that you do and what you think success is and what you think a work-life balance is. So as part of the planning process, think about why you make the choices you do and look at yourself from that area. Then identify your core skills. Okay, we talked about skills before. Now there's a good core set probably of 30, 40, 50 skills there. And you could pull out maybe 10 or 12 that are really, really good skills that you do really, really well. And you could maybe pinpoint that down to a 4 or 5. So you can pull that from the area that we talked about earlier. Another thing to put into your plan is things like location. There's no point in going for a job interview or a meeting with a possible contract with an organisation that's 50 miles away if you know that you're going to be killed after 6 months doing that 50-mile commute every day. Salary. So what do you think that you're worth? And are you worth it? And what is a good sort of minimum to maximum salary that will fit into your value system and what you're worth? And also think about the type of people that you're going to work with. And that comes down to the basics of the value system of the organisation. So if you're researching some organisations to possibly apply for work, look at the people that work there, look at their value system, look at the organisational value system, look at their mission statements, look at their vision statements if they have, and see, is that going to fit in with your career plan and ultimately your life plan? Get a strategy together, so how are you going to do this? And then look to your network. Now, women are desperate for this. Women think that their personal network is for personal issues and their professional network is for professional issues. So they can only go to friends and family when they have like friends and family issues, and they can only go to their professional network when they seek professional support of some kind. My attitude is use them all. So if you're out there looking for work, or if you're out there trying to set up a business, or you're out there trying to change your career, you let everybody know what you're doing. Okay? Get up there and yell it from the rooftops. I am looking for work. I am seeking a job. I am starting a new business. Tell them all what you're doing and give them your elevator pitch, nice and concise, in simple language that they can understand what it is that you do. And ask them, is there somebody that they know that can help you out or give you support of some kind? Now, to counteract that, of course, we always have to give when we're getting. So always look to support others in their journeys too. So if you're halfway through your journey and you meet somebody that's at the beginning of their journey and you provide them with help and support, whether it's tips and tricks or things to avoid or indeed maybe a contact that might be able to help them out. And always look in the other direction. Look at people who have been where you are right now and look to them for support. Okay, get a mentor if you can, or hire a business coach. And lastly, make your life plan. Sit down and make a plan of your life, whether you use mind mapping or lists or whatever way you want to do it, a vision board. Make some kind of an overall plan for your life and incorporate your career plan into that. Now, it doesn't work the other way around. You can't squeeze your life into your career. You may think otherwise, but your career should squeeze into your life plan because your career is only one part of your life. And try and enjoy the process. Most importantly, make sure that your choices match your belief system and make sure that your belief system matches your value system. The values you have are your core. They're the things that you truly, truly feel that you need in your life to be fulfilled and satisfied. The beliefs you have, however, may not be absolutely your own. We tend to grow up with beliefs from our peers, our teachers, our parents, and we grow up with those beliefs and we spend our whole life trying to justify those beliefs. Whereas if we sat down and really thought about, well, do I actually believe this? That might not actually fit in with your value system. An example would be something like, let's say your parents worked really, really hard all their lives and you saw them working to the bone, and in your heart and soul you were thinking, I don't want to do that in my life, and yet that's the path you go down because it's a belief that's been passed on to you. It doesn't match your value system, however, because you know in your heart and soul you want to scale down or be retired or whatever it is by 50, not by 70. So you need to change your belief system then to match what will work for you. And if your belief system matches your value system, the choices that you will make will be the right choices. I can guarantee you that. So that's it. Good luck with your career planning, and whatever choices that you make, your career being the job that you're doing, or the things that you're doing professionally, or the business that you're running, or the change in career that you want to make. And the very best of luck with it. And Keith, thanks again for having me on the show, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Well, that was a nice, short, quick podcast covering a little bit over cruise Wi-Fi and career planning. So thanks to Elaine for her time in sharing that information with us on career planning. And remember to think through the things that she had mentioned. And I suggest you actually sit down and write down and listen to her section again and take some notes and think about how you'd like to see not just your career, but your life, and whether or not you want to make sure your goals match what you'd like to end up doing. So thanks again to Elaine, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Wireless LAN Weekly.
Wireless LAN Weekly, a podcast focused on the needs of wireless LAN professionals. We look forward to your feedback. Please leave your comments at the bottom of the show notes, or email feedback on the show can be sent to feedback@wirelesslanprofessionals.com. If you'd like to leave a voicemail feedback, just call 24/7 and leave a message at 1-801-481-9018. Until next time, this has been another production of wirelesslanprofessionals.com, a place to educate, inform, entertain, and inspire.